until 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Hey. So I will speak in English and he will translate into Finnish. I understand that. Okay, my name is Jan Fjellander. I'm from Stockholm, and I've all my life been interested in the paranormal world. I always felt very deep in myself that there is a very important aspect of our being which is not understood by academia, and I also later on when I grew older, I realized that actually, without really knowing it, had a lot of experiences myself.
Hän on aina kokenut tärkeäksi parapsykologian tutkimuksen ja hän myöhemmällä vielä sitten havainnut, että hänellä on itselläänkin selittämättömiä kokemuksia tajumatta, että ensiapua itsekään.
You know, normally people speak about paranormal phenomena or parapsychology, I don't really like this term.
Eli tavallisesti ihmiset käyttävät termiä paranormaali tai parapsykologia, ja hän ei oikein tykkää näistä kummastakaan käsitteistä.
And I'll try to explain why. Oh, thank you very much. So,
eli hän vähän selventää näitä käsitteitä.
So, this word means besides or next to, not the real thing, but something beside.
Eli tuo tarkoittaa ensimmäinen osa tarkoittaa asian sivussa, jollakin tavalla sivussa.
And psycho means oh sorry, we are speaking English. Psyche means dealing with the psyche, the human psyche. Phenomena dealing with the human psyche.
Eli tämä keskimmäinen osa tarkoittaa asioita, joilla on jotakin tekemistä ihmismielen kanssa.
And logical means knowledge of.
Ja tämä viimeinen tarkoittaa tietoa tai oppia jostakin asiasta.
But I think you can put a big question mark on para, a big question mark on psycho, and a big question mark on logical.
Eli näihin jokaisen voi laittaa iso kysymysmerkki.
Para because it suggests that it's not quite normal. It's not basic. It's abnormal. It's something besides. It's not really so very interesting. The real interesting thing is the psychology, not the parapsychology. And if it is like this, that what we call parapsychology, that whole realm, ESP, telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, healing, all these sort of things, if it is something that is very basic and fundamental in every human being, then it is not beside.
Eli tämä käsite sivussa viittaa siihen, että se on jotenkin toissijaista näihin muihin asioihin, psykologiaan ja tällaisiin asioihin verrattuna viittaa siihen, että nämä asiat ovat jotenkin toisella sijalla.
So psycho means it's dealing with the human psyche, the psychological mechanisms. And the way we understand the psyche is that we have 5 senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and tasting. That's 5 senses. And in parapsychology, you very often speak about the 6th sense. Because, according to normal psychology, we perceive reality through our five senses.
Eli, eli psykologia käsittelee tavallisia viita-aistia, makuaistia, tuntoaistia, kuuloaistia, näköaistia. Ja sitten puhutaan psykologiasta kuudennesta aistista.
And we speak about the sixth sense when you get information about the world around you without using seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, or tasting. So it is as if we had another sense that we don't know about. That's the sixth sense. And then there are some people who speak about the seventh sense, etc., etc. And there's a concept of the blue sense, and many different words. But all this is based on a materialistic world perspective, actually, where the psyche of the brain and the way the brain processes information from the eyes, from the ears, from the smell, etc. Now, if the fundamental thing is not the psyche in that sense, how we process all this information, if there is something else that is more basic, or if we are speaking about other living forms that are not human, but also exhibit some kind of communication beyond one of the five known senses, then it is nonsensical to speak about psyche.
Eli tämä kuudes aisti viittaa siis ihmisen mahdolliseen kykyyn saada tietoa ympäristöstä ilman tavanomaisia aisteja, näköaistia, kuuloaistia ja niin poispäin. Ja tästä paljon puhutaan myöskin, että kuuden aistin lisäksi on 7 aistia, 8 aistia ja näin poispäin. Nämä kaikki käsitteet on kuitenkin jollakin tavalla materialistisia. Eli se olettaa, että siellä pohjalla kuitenkin on se psyyke. Kun taas voidaan ajatella, että se, siellä psyyken taustalla on jotakin vielä perustavanlaatuisempaa.
Well, of course, I mean, except for the five senses, we have more things to consider. It's the logic of things, logical thinking. That given this, you can draw the conclusion that. So you can draw conclusions by logic from certain facts. That is one thing. And another thing is that you have memory and experience, and you can also draw from memory and experience. So memory and experience, logical thinking, and the senses from the the information from the five senses makes up our worldview. But there may be more to it, as I said.
Tämä loppuosahan viittaa siis siihen, että jollakin tavalla päättelemällä, loogisesti päättelemällä, empiiristä havaittavissa tosiasioista voitaisiin päätellä asioita ja asia ei välttämättä ole niin aivan niin yksiselitteinen.
Then the last part of this term, logical, is logical that A plus B equals C. I mean, if A plus B is C, then A without B cannot be C. It cannot be. I mean, that is logic. You have sort of a set of rules how to think logical. But it is based, the logic is based on our very fundamental thinking and about reality. And very many of the paranormal phenomena cannot be understood or explained by logic. It goes beyond logic.
Eli ajattelen, meillä opetus ajattelee perinteisesti tällä logiikalla, että A plus B on C, ja jos ilman B:tä ei ole sitten C:tä, mutta paranormal ilmiöt, ne menevät jotenkin yli kaiken ymmärryksen. Niitä ei voi selittää perinteisellä logiikalla.
So instead of this concept of parapsychology, I rather like to speak about called psycho biophysics, and that means
Eli hän haluaa mieluummin puhua psykobiofysiikasta.
and that means the way we define it is unknown, not understood links or connections between psyche, biological organism, the body, and physics, the materia.
Eli tämä käsite yhdistää psyyken, mielen, biologisen tason ja fysiikan tason, luonnon tason.
Yeah, and that means that we are not bound to the human psyche. It's not only human phenomena. It can be animal, it can be plants, it can be matter even.
Eli tämä ei ole pelkästään tässä paranormaalista ilmiöistä kyse on pelkästään psyyken ilmiöistä, vaan se voi olla myöskin kasveja, se voi olla jopa jotakin elottamia objekteja.
Musta tuntuu, että tuosta lähtien kun menee se ainoa, ketä ei osannut englantia, niin ei ehkä tarvitse kääntää enää.
Ahaa.
Ainakaan mun ei viitannut kukaan muukin.
Onko täällä vielä läsnä, jotka ei osaa englantia? So, no need for translation anymore.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. Then I started a research center in the 70s, a long time ago now, in Stockholm, called the Stockholm Research Center for Psychobiophysics. And we did many different things. But one of the things that we studied at depth was something that has to do with plants, and that is the so-called Baxter effect. Baxter is a name, Cleve Baxter. Now, he was an expert in lie detectors, and he was actually in the 60s, 70s. Well, anyway, he got world famous because he was one of the experts called in when the American public suspected that Richard Nixon, the president of the United States, was lying. And they called in the CIA expert on lie detectors, that's Cleve Baxter, to test the president if he was telling the truth when he was asked by the Senate and the Congress. So he has quite high standing. Well, I met Cleve Baxter several times, and I've done experiments together with him. So as it started, he was watering his plants in the office, you know, by putting some water on the plate. Then I was thinking, I wonder how long time does it take actually before the water from the plate goes up to the roots and go up to the leaves. Does it take 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or 1 hour? How long time does it take? You know, it's sort of just something you wonder about. And then he said, oh, but wait, here at the lab, I have the equipment, I could measure it. And then he assumed that when water is coming up through the soil, roots and stem to the leaves, the electrical resistance in the leaf will change because water leads electricity, so it will be less resistance. So he put in one electrode on the bottom of a leaf and one on top, and there the plant is standing, you know. And then he got a machine that writes the reaction. What he had expected was something like this. So if we write time here, and here's some, you know, how strong or something. What he had expected was that he would have gotten a reading like something like this, and then after a little while, it would go up and perhaps settle at a different level. And then when the water reached the leaf, it would be here. But that is not at all what he got. What he got was something different. He got a reaction that looked like something like that. And it indicated that the electrical resistance was changing all the time, up and down in the leaf. Now, when you, instead of having a leaf, you put a human being. You put electrodes, a human being. And why we use this machine as a lie detector, it is because when you are lying, well, this is a simple explanation. There is a more complicated one, actually. But the simple explanation is that when you're lying, without knowing it, you are sweating a little bit. When they discover that I'm lying. And the sweat makes it more moist here and makes electricity pass through your body more easily. And so this then would be that it goes up. And this continuous sweatening, you know, the change in the skin resistance is a reflection of our emotions. And thus, when you have a human being connected to it, you use it as a lie detector because you put certain questions, and then you see if this is a touchy subject, if he got nervous a little bit when if there's been a murder in one corner of two streets, and then he sort of happened to mention that street without saying anything about the murder, and then you go, okay, this is a touchy subject, or a date or something like that. And in that way they can sort of find out what is a touchy subject, what is sensitive for this person. But the important thing is that this reflects the reactions of the emotions in a human being. But this is not a human being, this is a plant. So he thought, oh, does plants have emotions? I never thought that. Well, if plants have emotions or something like that, how could I test it? Oh yes, I know. I will shock the plant, because when you have human, because one human being can look like this, another human being can look like this. That means that the whole is on a lower level, or and this is written on a piece of paper. If the paper ends here and ends here, you don't want to have the reading outside the paper, if you understand what I mean. There is a paper and a needle, you know, and it's writing like that. So you don't want to have the needle trying to get up here, because then you can't register it. So therefore you make some initial tests by shocking the person in one way or another. You're giving them a very strong reaction, and then you see, aha, it dies within the paper, good. But if it went like this, then it's not good, because then the interesting thing happens up here and you don't see it. So he was used to use some kind of shock treatment. But how can you shock the plant? Well, you have to do something unfriendly to the plant, probably. So then he thought that Yes, now I know. I will take a lighter and I will burn a leaf. Ow! That would make the plant react. And so he thought, and he had the plant connected. So what shall I do? Oh yes, I know. I will burn the leaf. And he was just thinking. He was not doing anything. He was just thinking. And then there was a reaction in the plant. And then later on, he actually burnt the leaf. And that was, here he was burning. And here was the thought of burning. So actually the thought was, at that time, stronger than the actual disturbance. So this is how it all started. Then he made many different experiments. So one experiment was, for example, with if you have one plant and you're registering on that, and then you do something to another plant in a different room with walls in between. At the time when he burned a leaf, this plant is reacting as if it is picking up the reaction of this plant. And at another time, he saw a spider on the floor, and he sort of trapped the spider in the corner. And so it couldn't escape. It was running to and fro, got more and more nervous. And as the spider got more and more nervous, there was stronger and stronger reactions in the plant that was registering it. It was continuous registering. He just kept it hooked to the instrument so he could observe what was happening in ordinary life. Then one day he did one very interesting experiment. He took some kind of device that well, you know, some kind of device that at some time give a signal, you know, like an egg cooker, you know, nowadays it's finished or something like that. But he put it at the time and he didn't see how much time he put. But it was anywhere between, say, quarter of an hour to up to an hour from now. And he just did it without looking and then put it in his pocket. Then he left his laboratory. The plants were standing there, the machines were running. And then he left and walked away from the plants, from the laboratory, away in New York, many streets away. And then suddenly as he walked there, that was the signal. Then the moment he turned back, now he's going and he's thinking of the plants, and he's now gone back to the plants. And at the same time, this device was registering the how much time it took for him to go back to the laboratory. And then when he came back to the laboratory, you know, it's no longer it's long registration, you know. So say, for example, okay, so here he started the machine, here he left the laboratory, and here he was walking, and then somewhere here he stopped the machine and he came back, and then he looked at the time. Okay, so it's exactly 32 minutes. Then it was just counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 32 minutes. Okay, so here was the time when I turned back. And, oh, yes, there was a reaction. And then he has repeated this several times. So it seems that the plants develop some kind of relationship with a person who's watering them. And the plants are aware what's happening to this person. And when they are turning back to go to the place where the plants are, the plants know it and they react. And it can be tested, actually.
Isn't it probably the same with dogs and dog owners? That the dogs
That's
react?
right. The dogs that know that when the parents are coming home, no, when the dog owner is coming home. That's right. That's a book of Rupert Sheldrake.
Yeah.
That's just written about it. And haven't you read it? You should read it. It's very good. But this holds for more than plants, actually. It can be many this kind of communication that we don't understand, but we can see that it is there. It can be you can take, yes.
You think then the plants and the dog use the sixth sense always?
I don't like to speak about the sixth sense because I think that is leading you on the wrong track. I think that we are, well, if we speak about the human being.
No, I just speak about the communication that you
I
talk about.
understand. But if we speak about the human being, I think it is like this, that I'm here now, I see you, and I hear you, and I can touch the table, etc., etc. But besides that, I also have the memory of having walked around. I have the memory, and I remember all the people I saw, the different tables, and what's going on outside. But except for that, I'm from Stockholm. I know my wife, and my son is studying in Uppsala, and there are people which are very close to me. And there are some very good friends who lives in Dalarna, it's a region of Sweden. And I have a number of places, and I have a number of people, and I have a number of subject areas that I'm very interested in, like crop circles, UFOs, or paranormal, parapsychological phenomena, etc. So all this is in my mind, and all these things seems to program a function in my being that we could say is like a radar. That if I had a radar here, and it's continuously, all the time, scanning what's happening to my son in Uppsala, what's happening to my wife, what's happening to my friend in Dalarna, what's going on outside here. Is there a new major scientific discovery in the fields that I'm interested in? All these sort of things, it's sort of picking up whenever it is there. And then I think it is well, that's human being supposed to be. So here is this radar, you know, and I have the ear, and I have the taste, and I have the nose smell, and all these sort of things. They land up somewhere in the brain. Like you could, I don't like to speak so much about brain. Let's say that it lands up in my subconscious, and then as it comes up here, the information, we process it. And first we ask ourselves, is this something that I know about? Is this something threatening? Or is it something familiar? And if it's familiar, then I can let it through to the conscious me. And then the next question is it explainable? Or is it, do I recognize it or not? And if it is explainable, then I get really conscious about it. If it's unexplainable, I say, oh, it was something. I don't care. And so it goes through filter. Is it no? And is it threatening? When we go to sleep, these ones open up, and all this information can freely trace our dreams. No, I think that we are continuously, when I'm now standing here talking to you, if something happens to my son in Uppsala, I will immediately pick it up. I will know it in here. But I'm now standing here in front of you giving a lecture, so I can't pay too much attention to this. I can't get my telephone and telephone him, but I know somewhere. And then next time I'm at myself, you know, then and I relax and then perhaps let this go out. But that means that me and my world perspective is what I see, what I hear, and smell, taste, and touch. But also this, and it's continuous all the time, all the time, all the time. It's not a particular sense. It's just that it's something I know, and it's there. And what is difficult for us with these type of phenomena is that we don't accept them. We don't understand them, and therefore we don't accept them, and we don't let them to our conscious mind. But it's still there. The information is there. It's like, you know, if I had gaseous water, you know, with bubbles, you know. So it is all this information that we are picking up by this radar is bubbling up, you know, like this water bubbles in the water. And either we have this, if we are very rational, we have it, which is very small, so most of it goes down, and just a few things comes up here, except in the nights. Then I can dream very strange dreams, because then it flows free. So I think that this kind of continuous communication is going on all the time, and I think it goes on with all people all the time. People who are near us. The range of this radar is my conscious mind. What I define as my friends, as places that are important for me, or things that are important to me. That is the telling what to scan. If I have a very narrow mind, if I'm not interested in other people, if I'm not interested in anything, it's picking up very little. But if I have an open mind, I have easy to relate to people, I pick up a lot. Now, in physics, they are now discovering that much of what we call physics is actually not the physics in the sense that we learned in school, but it's quantum physics. And there are some very strange phenomena in quantum physics. The phenomena that you can study when you go into the subatomic level, that is smaller than the atom. So it's energies that are smaller than the parts of the atom. And if you study these phenomena, you discover some very strange things that you don't observe in the real world, so the world that we perceive with our senses. Like, for example, they have done an experiment. They have a mechanism that shoots a particle here, which is then somehow split. One particle, subatomic particle, it's split, and one part goes there, and another part goes there. And this is in the laboratory, as a room, say 3 meters, 4 meters, something like that. And here is a sort of detection of some kind, an instrument that reads what is happening here and what is happening here. And there are certain qualities of these subatomic particles. Some of them can have a swaying like that, and others are swaying like that. They have different directions of swaying. Now the strange thing is that if this one is swaying in that way, then this one is always will look like that. But it changes all the time, you see. So sometimes this one is like that, and sometimes it's like that. But every time you check, whatever this is the opposite. So it is as if these two particles are one particle. They know each other all the time. That is, and now they have done experiments ranging to many, many, many kilometers, many, many miles, where this connection in the physical world is understood. And this may be an explanation somehow that our mind is using some quantum phenomena to understand and know what's going on quite at a distance. So it's not really having a particular sense, it's something continuously going on. It's like, I know what you asked, are they having a sixth sense, the plants? I think they are part of reality, and I think all of reality is communicating with each other. And I think that all organisms, all human beings, all animals, all plants, all insects, are communicating all the time with each other. And I think that we as beings, we are also having a connection to the planet, and we are communicating with what's happening with the planet as an ecosystem. Or we can speak about ecosystems. We have a forest outside here, which is working as an entity, trying to survive, trying to develop. And we can also go there and pick up what's happening. And maybe also, this is true in a cosmic sense, that it goes beyond our planet, that we know what's going on in the cosmos. There are some very strange phenomena that shows that when you do a laboratory experiment, your chances of getting a good result is better if you do it at a particular time relative how the stars sit in the sky. And as the Earth is rotating, the stars change all the time, you know. But the stars that rise over the horizon, and you know, it's different for every hour. And you measure this by star time, or as different to ordinary time. Star time have 25 hours, and we have normally 24 hours. But I don't go into explanation of that. But and it shows that if you want to have good results, you should do it at a certain time when it seems that the center of our galaxy is just rising over the horizon. That is the best time to do psychic experiments. And then there are some other times that is the worst, that you almost never have successful experiments. You can't observe any paranormal effects if you do experiments in those times. So it seems that cosmos somehow is also communicating with us, and we are dependent on cosmos for our understanding of the world, how we communicate and what we pick up. So I think we perhaps have to change our whole paradigm of thinking. That is not just the brain processing information from the senses and by trial and error creates a sort of picture of the world, you know. But it's something far, far more complex, and we are all the time communicating with other human beings, other beings, animals, and environment. And we are also suffering, and we are enjoying together with our environment. That we have some expressions in our language. We say, you go out to nature to do what? To have recreation, right? You go to nature to have recreation. Now, what is recreation? Recreation. It's like we are healed by nature. We are being created as new when we go out to nature. And then if there is if a forest is very healthy, very good, perhaps the human beings living nearby or taking a stroll in the forest is picking up this, and they are becoming much more in harmony within themselves. They are recreating. But if we are destroying the nature by putting a lot of poisons in it, perhaps it's not only the forest and the ecology that is destroyed, because we also find it more difficult to function. It's like, you know, if we put a lot of bad things in the air, it's hard to breathe. But this can be true in a much, much more wide sense. Okay, so I want to tell you about something else about this Baxter effect, because we did experiment on eggs. Okay, right? And then we put one electrode on one side and one on the other side, and we measured the electrical resistance over the egg, so to say. And then what you get is something quite different from the plant. So instead of getting this, you know, we get something that looks like this. So it's one steady ring that goes on continuously, and then there's a secondary chunk, 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 and then there can be a third reaction that the baseline goes up, and here about should be another one like that, and there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9 different rhythms in the egg that are parallel. So they look very different. And of course, an egg is just one cell. A plant is many, many thousand, many, many millions of cells. So, but if you measure on one cell, an egg is a large one cell, then you get this kind of reaction. Now, the interesting thing is that if you take, so we have one egg that we measure on, this one is this, then we go into another room and we take another egg and we put it in a pot of boiling water. So, and we exactly control the time when this is happening. We found that this first egg, very often, not always, but very often, it changes. So if we, and then we have this instrument, one line registering this, another is an event line. So when this egg goes down, it is triggering something here that is giving a signal here. So when this one, that will be a mark here. That means, aha, here, the egg was put into boiling water. And what happened here? This one suddenly disappeared. And we did a lot of experiments with eggs, because this is much more, you know better what you're talking about when you talk about eggs. because this is very distinctive. If you have a plant, what is a reaction? Is this a reaction? Is this a reaction? Is this a reaction? It's a subjective thing. You have to define what is a reaction. And it's easy to say, oh, here we did something, and look here, yes. But maybe this just belongs to the normal behavior of the plant. It's very hard to tell what is a reaction, what is the abnormal thing. But in the case of an egg, you have these rhythms, and suddenly it disappears. Or what can also happen is that another rhythm started that hasn't been there. And these rhythms, they exist for a long, long time. They can last for hours, and they change, say over 3 or 4 hours. They change perhaps some 3–5%. That is the time between two spikes, so to say. So it takes, let's say it takes 2 seconds. So then after a couple of hours, it takes 2.2 seconds or something like that. So they are very, very stable to be of biological character. And it's quite distinctive when one root suddenly disappears and when a new one appears. And we try to make this. I was wondering what is actually happening? How can this egg know that I'm in another room and putting that egg into boiling water? There is a neighbor here that's perhaps also boiling egg. I don't know about that. There's another person in another flat. Why is this egg reacting to this egg? Or maybe I bought them at the same shop. Perhaps they were in the same box. Oh, they know each other. Perhaps they even were from the same hen. So then we try to buy eggs, or you don't know which eggs come from which hen, but at least if you buy eggs from one shop and then eggs from another shop, then you're fairly sure that they are from different origin. And then they are not kept together, so they don't get to know each other. But then I thought, oh, maybe this is all wrong. Maybe it is not a question of the eggs at all, because here's me doing these experiments, and I have all this in my mind that I will now do this. And actually, perhaps it is me, who send a sort of psychokinetic signal to the instrumentation to give a reaction. I mean, you have to ask yourself, what is what? You don't know. So in order to try to investigate this, we automated this experiment. So actually, this was lying like that, and then here was a mechanism that suddenly tipped this. So it was lying like this, egg was there, and then suddenly there was something that pushed this up. So this one, and the egg slided down. And we made it so it's a time device. There was a clock here, and we set it so it could be any second or any minute within, say, half an hour. We don't know if it is 3 minutes and 2 seconds, or if it is 25 minutes and 7 seconds, or anything like that. We just set the machine, have enough water in the pot to be boiling, start the registration of this egg, and then we leave the flat. We left the laboratory. So no person was present. And then after half an hour, we were sure that this would have occurred, and we came out, yes, sure, that was a very well-boiled egg. It was very hard-boiled. And then there was also something that could trigger this time, the event line I was telling you about, telling that here the egg was dipped into water, and then we could check if something had happened here. And about 70% of the times we did this experiment, we got a reaction, and that's extremely high percentage. So what does this mean? I don't know. I don't know if the egg knows if I'm happy or if I'm sorrow. I don't know if the egg, this egg, is oh when that egg is put into boiling water, or but perhaps they are enemies and say, "Hooray! At last!" We can't decide what kind of reaction it is, but some kind of reaction they are sort of picking up. And we do have automatic reactions, all of us. So one thing which I think is important that we observe in ourselves, and particularly when we grow up children that we think of, is that if we see another human being or an animal, or for that sake a plant, that is suffering, having pain, or is damaged, what is the spontaneous reaction that most people have? It's a reaction of sympathy or empathy. That we, oh my God, oh poor you, how are you? Oh, so, what has happened to you? You know, this is the spontaneous reaction. Maybe this is something born into every living creature, being human, being animal, or insect, or forest, or whatever, you know. That if something is damaged, you know, that is some kind of empathic reaction. And what happens then? You actually stream a lot of healing energy over to that person. And you try, for example, if a child burns themselves, oh, so, and then most people do this, but without realizing they're using an age-old healing technique. Now it's gone. Yeah, good. So maybe we have this reaction that everything that is alive is reacting when something is wrong, and then we react with sort of automatic healing response. And maybe this is a survival measure for humans, animals, plants, etc. That's one thing I think it is important that this possibly means. That it's an automatic reaction. Why do we have such an automatic reaction? There must be some kind of meaning with it. So, and there could be a survival perspective on it, Darwinistic thinking, you know, that we survive, that if we take care of each other when someone is suffering and so on. And I think you can actually, sorry?
Yeah, can I make one
Yes?
point about this? When you make the egg fall randomly,
Yes?
it can still be the researcher, because you have created a contact with the egg.
Sure.
And when the egg falls, you react to it with your radar, and
Right.
that is triggers the other radar.
That is
So
absolutely
it's
true.
very difficult to rule
Yeah.
out
No, that within parapsychology, that has a name, that theory.
Mhm.
It's called super psi. Psi is the term for paranormal abilities.
Mhm.
Super psi is just this, that we act almost like a computer, that we can get the information and we have the intention, etc., and we sort of manipulate it ourselves. And it's very difficult to argue against any super psi theory, except that is a normal scientific method to deal with it, and that is that you have something that's called Occam's razor. Do you know about this concept?
Yeah.
So it means that if you have different explanations to a phenomena, which one is most probably true? Well, the one which is most simple is probably the one is true. the one that is more complicated is probably less likely to be true. But yes, okay, I think the time is 3, so I think there is another program going on.
Ja, actually,